Got me. Good morning. Good morning. Make sure you squeeze in so that we can have room for everybody on the middle aisles. Make sure you squeeze in. Everybody's coming in, so make sure you make room for others. Try not to leave any seats. We should have a full house today. Thank you. Who that?
This is the day that the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Gentlemen, if you would take off your caps for prayer. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for your love and for your grace, for your creativity, for your ability to dispense knowledge. We welcome you here in this place at this time in order for you to do your wonderful work. As we enter this academic season, Lord, for the students I pray for curiosity. For the students I pray for a yearning to know. And for the students I pray for a patience to learn. And for the faculty, dear Lord, I pray for wisdom. I pray for curiosity as well. And I pray for understanding as we try to teach the concepts and the ideas that are important to each and every field. And for the administration and staff, dear Lord, give them strength, give them grace, help them to understand how important they are to the learning process. We love you, Lord, and we praise you, and we welcome you here. And all God's people said. As you sit down, oh, you did it. Please silence your cell phones. Awesome.
Welcome back, Warner. We are so excited to start a brand new year. I need your help on a little bit of an exercise right now because as you can see, we had a record class. So if you're sitting in the center section and there's an open seat in your section, everybody scoot in. If you're on the outsides, everybody scoot in. So we'll try to create some empty seats on the outside and some empty seats right down in this section. It's a great problem to have to be full. So again, I want to welcome all of our brand new students to Warner University. If you're a brand new student at Warner, why don't you stand and let's give a round of applause and welcome them. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. You may be seated. So if you think about it, at the end of an academic year, we celebrate at graduation and we all wear regalia. Well, you might not have been a part of a convocation before, but this is a convocation, a time to celebrate as we start a new academic year. And the regalia that you'll see our faculty wearing goes back to the 12th century in Europe. I'd like you to even take a look at some of the faculty members as they leave today because their robe tells a story. There might be a significance of the color of their robe based on where they went to school, but for sure, their robe signifies something. So if their sleeves are really long, that's a master's robe. And I know some of you will be pursuing a master's degree someday. Now, when you see some of the other faculty that have their doctorate, they have the velvet on the sides and their hoods are a little bit longer. And on the inside of our hoods, it has the school colors from where we graduated from. You know, the white hood would mean that you were either in arts or humanities. If you were business, it would be that tan color. Education's like blue. Library science is lemon, music pink, and the darker blue would be doctorate in philosophy. So again, these signify the hard work that your faculty have done just to get to this point in their career. Well, let's continue to celebrate, and please stand as we open for our first hymn.
Lord For the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, the intelligence of the intelligent I will frustrate. Where is the wise person? Where is the teacher of the law? Where is the philosopher of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God the world through its wisdom did not know him, God was pleased through the foolishness of what was preached to save those who believe. Jews demand signs and Greeks look for wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those whom God has called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than human strength.
It's my privilege to introduce the speaker today. Dr. Gentry Sutton serves as the Vice President for Academic Affairs and Chief Academic Officer at Warner University. Prior to coming to Warner University, he served in a variety of different leadership positions at Oklahoma Wesleyan University. He was Provost, Dean of the School of Arts and Science, Dean of Assessment and Accreditation, and an Assistant Professor of English. He also served as an Assistant Professor of English at Sterling College in Kansas. Dr. Sutton earned his doctorate in educational ministry from Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in Kansas City, where he was named the Outstanding Doctoral Student in 2015. He holds a master's degree in English from Emporia State University in Kansas and a bachelor's degree in English and physical education from Sterling College in Kansas. He also played baseball there and has the home run record at Sterling College. Dr. Sutton and his wife Brooke are proud parents of 2 adult children, 2 grandchildren, and 1 on the way, and you may see him sitting on campus walking a large animal. It's not a horse from our equestrian program. It is Casey Royal, his Great Dane. Please give a warm Warner welcome to Dr. Sutton.
Thank you, Dr. Lynn.
Good morning, students. Am I on? New students, welcome to Warner. Returning students, welcome back. You know, out here in kind of rural Florida, Central Florida, it gets kind of lonely in the summer without you all. And you bring life and energy and enthusiasm and vitality back to this campus, and we are so glad. You are the reason the rest of us are here, and we're ready to start another year and have a great one. I have some new faculty members that I would like to introduce this morning. I will ask them to stand as I call their name and remain standing until we're through everyone. Dr. Matthew Swale is our new Assistant Professor of Bible and Ministry. Dr. Swale is coming to us from the Birmingham, Alabama area, and most of you first-year students will probably have Dr. Swale in class as he teaches most of the sections of our Christian Life, Faith, and Practice course. Dr. Swale earned his Bachelor of Arts in Biblical Studies at Moody Bible Institute, his Master of Divinity at Beeson Divinity School of Samford University, and both his THM in Pedagogy and his PhD in Biblical Studies from Midwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in Kansas City. And that's a great seminary, Matt. Good choice. Mr. Ken Hensley, Assistant Professor of Business Management, comes to us from Colorado after serving for many years as a pastor there. But Ken also has led some successful business startups. So we're excited about the experience about that he's going to share with our business majors this year. Ken earned his Bachelor of Arts in American Studies from Freed-Hardeman University in Tennessee, and he holds both the Master of Business Administration and the Master of Science in Management and Leadership from Western Governors University. Nicole Chitwood, Instructor of Education, has been teaching part-time for us in the Education Department for quite some time, and she was doing such a good job that we wanted to bring her on full-time. Nikki earned her Bachelor of Arts in Elementary Education at Trinity International University, and earned her Master's in Education from American College of Education. Sarah Lemire, instructor of social work, even though we won't be able to see Sarah now. There she is. Has also taught part-time for us and has done such a good job that we wanted to bring her on to the ranks of the full-time faculty. Sarah earned both the Bachelor of Social Work and the Master of Social Work at the University of South Florida. And finally, I want to welcome Dr. Marissa Stewart, our new director of the Academic Skills Center and Disability Services. There you are, Dr. Stewart. Dr. Stewart was most recently the Dean of Students at Osceola County Schools in Kissimmee. She earned a Bachelor of Arts in Human Services from Springfield College, and she earned both a Master of Arts in School Counseling and the Doctorate of Education in Higher and Post-Secondary Education from Argosy University. And Dr. Stewart is already doing a great job for us because she had to hit the ground running. We are glad all of our new folks are here. God has brought them specifically to Warner University, and we are eager to see what he's going to do with their educational ministries here. So welcome all. Going to do something a little bit different for this convocation address. Even though this is called our academic convocation, I'm not going to be as academic this morning as I usually am. I'm not going to talk about the history of the liberal arts or how important the liberal arts ethos is to our culture. I will speak with you on various occasions during your time here, and I'm sure I'll probably talk about those things at some point. But I started praying about this day back in May, and I just feel like I have to take a different direction today. And I have to believe that there are people in the room who need to hear what I want to say, because the leading was pretty strong. So I'm going to be a little transparent with you today, and I'm going to tell you part of my story. I'm going to tell you a part of my story as it relates specifically to my own experience as a student in a small Christian liberal arts college a lot like Warner. And what I hope to communicate, I think, is the disposition or the posture that you need to have about certain realities that are distinctive to the Christian liberal arts college so that you can get the most from this experience. I'm specifically going to tell you about my life in the years 1995 and 1996, when I was the same age as many of you in the room. Those were two of the most important years of my life. And your years here are likely to be some of the most important years of your life. Before I get into my story, though, I want to tell you two of the most important things that I've ever learned. Two of the things that have kind of helped shape me into who I am today. And you'll see how these things weave into my story. But I want you to hear me say that I either learned these things in the small Christian liberal arts setting, or I had these things affirmed and really drilled into me in the small Christian liberal arts college like I would not have anywhere else. And those two things are these: tough love and straight shooting directed toward you are gifts. And that's a hard one, and I'm still growing in that one. But I'm further along than I was when I was 18. And the gospel and the experience of sharing it are powerful. So those are two things we're going to focus on. Just a little bit about me, just really quickly. I grew up on a farm in southwestern Oklahoma. My dad was a farmer, and my mom was an interior decorator and a custom drapery maker. And I always tell people that I think my parents' occupations might be some of why I can relate to so many different types of people. Because when I was younger in the summers, if I wasn't on a baseball field and I went to work with my dad, I was either on a tractor or in a cow pasture somewhere. And if I went to work with my mom, I was either in a fabric store or in an antique shop. And you ag majors need to know that I can decorate the cab of a tractor as well as anyone. But anyway, I went off to state college at the age of 18 to play baseball. And I was all over the map, no life direction, doing a bunch of stuff I shouldn't have been doing, grades going further and further down every semester. And in the middle of my fourth semester at a state college, I dropped out. And there was a lot behind that decision that I would love to share with you today, and I just don't have time. But you all need to know that I was not a Christian at that time. I'd grown up in a Christian home, a very conservative Christian home, and my parents had taught me from the Bible. But I was not a Christian. I believed in this general idea of a God who punished evil and rewarded good. But I had not accepted Jesus as Lord of my life. I didn't understand this whole Jesus thing. In fact, I was living a life that made a mockery of what he had done for me. And that semester that I dropped out, the spring of 1995, I reconnected with a friend that I had known in elementary school and junior high. I'm going to call him James. Thought I could get through this. James is really good, nice, fun-loving guy, and I would say he's probably my second closest friend at that time in my life. But he was doing some things that he shouldn't have been doing, and I probably shouldn't have been spending as much time with him as I was, because I let him get me in trouble a time or two. And James had a good friend whom I'll call Charles. I was acquainted with Charles. I wouldn't say we were good friends, but we were well acquainted. And being around Charles and James the week of April 16th through April 22nd, 1995, made an already tough week for an Oklahoman even tougher. On April 19th, a guy named Timothy McVeigh blew up the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building in downtown Oklahoma City, resulting in the worst domestic terrorist attack that our nation has ever seen. And 2 nights later, on April 21st, my friend James was murdered by 4 bullets by his so-called friend Charles. I don't have time to go into the why and the details, but for now I'll say that I was apparently the last one besides Charles to see James that evening, because they were riding around together and I had stopped and talked to them on my way out of town. And because of that fact, I got to be involved in some really hard legal drama that summer that I'll come back to in a few moments, the following summer, I guess. And I'll come back to that. But for now, I want to keep moving chronologically. I did go back to college the next fall, the fall of 1995, and I went to a small Christian liberal arts college a lot like Warner. And just like I did straight out of high school, I went there to play baseball. And again, I believed in God, but I didn't understand this Jesus thing. And I certainly was not living a life to honor him. But a couple of really important things happened during my first year at that small Christian college in the middle of Kansas. The first thing was that a bunch of people told me the truth. They didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. They told me the truth. They told me the truth about Jesus and what he expected of me. And they told me the truth about the way the world works. And besides home, I had never really encountered a place where so many people told me the truth so boldly and unapologetically. And they spoke some good things in truth to me, just as our theme is this year. They told me that I was made for more. But they also told me when I was wrong. And I want to warn you all, you're going to be told the truth at Warner by your professors and coaches and other staff members. And it's so easy in today's culture to get mad at hearing the truth. Because our culture has become so relativist. You can always go find a friend or an entertainer, a celebrity, or a journalist who will agree with you in your position. But I'm here to tell you that if you meet this experience with that attitude, you're going to be wasting a lot of money. Because one of the things that makes Warner different is that we're going to tell you some truth that you won't hear at a big state university. And I want you to realize that your professors and your coaches have studied for years and years about certain things, and they have rich life experiences. And they're going to tell you the truth because that is their job, and they'll do it because they love you. And for me, having a year of people telling me the truth in 1995 and 1996 really paved the way and prepared my heart spiritually and kind of prepared me mentally for me to react the way I needed to react to one of the other big things that happened to me that year. But I've got to set that one up for you. You'll love this one. So I've been at that college for almost a whole academic year. It's March of 1996, about a year after my friend James was killed. And I have a life-changing interaction with my mom, an experience that was rooted in my mom's tough love and straight shooting. When I landed on the baseball team for that college, I had some competition for a starting spot in the outfield. And the guy who was my competition had been there the year before, but I was new. And I'd grown up in a small town and had never had to sit on the bench a day in my life. So I was a little irritated by having to beat someone out for a position. But this guy was a pretty good player, and I would say we were about even, actually. I was a lot faster. He was a little better hitter. Our throwing arms were about the same. So we were pretty even. But He was one of those guys who always had to go see the trainer right when the rest of the team started running. You all know what I'm talking about? He was lazy, and he broke all the coach's rules and got away with it. And about halfway through the season, I was really irritated that I was still having to sit on the bench half the time, because I was way more committed to the team and to the game than this guy was, but our coach was basically splitting our playing time 50-50. And on spring break, 1996, my team travels from Kansas down to Oklahoma for a road trip. And my mom came to see me play that last day of the road trip. And just as usual, I played one game and the other guy played the other game of a doubleheader. And after the game, I go out to my mom's car, and instead of acting happy to see her and thanking her for driving 3 hours to watch me play, I launch into this tirade about my coach. And I was being an obnoxious brat. And I used language with my mother that I had never used in front of her. And I could tell she was disappointed in the way that I was acting, but she had driven a while to see me. She wanted to see me, and she'd always been my biggest fan and encouragement. So she listened, but I could tell that she was bothered. After a few minutes, I had to get on the van and go back home. And, of course, she tells me to call her when I get back to my dorm room in Kansas, make sure I made it home safely, because that's what moms do, right? But I'm fuming the whole way back, because I've had a couple of months now of what I believe is unfair treatment by my coach. And I get back to my dorm room, and it's about 10 o'clock at night. I call my mom, and I'm just a broken record, still just yelling and cussing about my coach. And she listens for a minute, and then she says, "All right, Gentry Neal." She used my middle name, Dr. Hogue. You know what that means. She says, "All right, Gentry Neal, baseball is not all there is to life. God is never going to honor the attitude you have right now, and maybe you need to look in the Bible and see what it says about pride, jealousy, and greed." I was kind of in shock, because my mom had always been my biggest fan and had let me vent, but she'd had enough. And that just made me even madder, so I just got off the phone with her and went to bed. But I started praying to God in my anger, this big general God that I believed in. Even though I didn't comprehend this Jesus stuff, which is a pretty important part of if you're a Christian. And I lay there praying, going in and out of sleep for about 3 or 4 hours because I'm so wound up. But I was praying in and out of sleep. And then at about 2 o'clock in the morning, these 3 little words just take over my thoughts. I didn't hear them audibly, but it was almost like I did, because they just came out of nowhere. And those 3 words were peace, love, and joy. And sometime later, I honestly don't remember if it was days or weeks or years later, but I remember thinking to myself, you know, a 20-year-old college baseball player does not fall asleep at night thinking about the words peace, love, and joy. That was God. And I sat straight up in bed because I knew something weird was happening. And I remembered that someone had given me a little book called the Bible Promise Book. You all ever seen that? The Bible Promise Book. It's just a lot of Bible promises categorized by topic. And it had been sitting on my dorm room desk for weeks. And I jumped down from my bed and picked up this little book, this one right here. And its pages are yellowed now, which is really depressing. But I opened it up, and peace, love, and joy were 3 of the categories, 3 of the topics. And I just dove into reading those pages. And I got almost finished, and I realized that peace, love, and joy are in many ways the opposites of pride, jealousy, and greed. But more importantly, I realized that those passages were about Jesus Christ. And I realized that he is the ultimate source of peace, love, and joy, and that he embodies those things. And in the blink of an eye, at 2 o'clock in the morning, Jesus made sense. I got it. And there alone in my dorm room at 2 o'clock in the morning, I did what my professors and my coaches had been wanting me to do all year. I said, "Jesus, I know who you are now. I get it. And I am so sorry for all the stupid stuff I've done. And I know I need to follow you, and I know I need to put this ridiculous childish behavior behind me. And there may be some of you in the room who are very serious about the academic major that you're here to study, and you might be wondering what all this faith stuff has to do with academics. And I wish I had the time to tell you how that night changed the course of my academic life. That's a whole different address. I changed my major. Well, I picked up a second major within a couple of days. That night changed the course of my life and my career and made my career immeasurably richer. And I don't like to imagine where I would be today without that night and my mom's tough love and straight shooting, because when I do imagine it, it's not pretty. And you all need to know that there will be professors and coaches and staff members here who will call you out on your pride and jealousy and greed when they rear their ugly heads. But here's what I want you to remember. Tough love and straight shooting are gifts. Your professors and your coaches' tough love and straight shooting will be two of the greatest gifts you could ever receive. Please lock that in your psyche right now to remember that when you hear the hard things from them. Because they're going to tell you the hard things because they love you. And I firmly believe that months of hearing the truth from professors and coaches when I was a student prepared my heart for me to respond to God the way I needed to respond in that moment in the spring of 1996. Because I don't think I would have responded the way that I did if I had not been hit in the face for months with tough love and straight shooting at a small Christian college just like this one. So that was the week of March. That was March 1996. Fast forward just a few weeks to finals week in May. I take my last final, and I've told my mom when my last final is. And she calls me right after it, and she says, "Son, I am so sorry to have to tell you this, but the trial about James's murder is going to start this summer, and the attorneys are going to want you there." And she was so awesome. She was such a good mom. She said they wanted to deliver a summons to your dorm room, but I told them absolutely not. He's finally got his life on the right track. You guys can wait 2 weeks. Good Southern mom. But I did have to go home and face that drama that summer, and here was the problem. The prosecution wanted me as a character witness for my friend James, which meant that the defense might try to look at my character in a slightly different way. And I'm not sure that's the angle they wanted to take, but I know it was their job to get Charles acquitted, and I knew how attorneys could manipulate almost anything in a courtroom. And I was not a bad kid, and I hadn't done anything terrible, but I'd done things I wasn't proud of, and there were things I did not want to come out in a courtroom in front of my parents and the whole county. And boy, did things come out at that trial. And I went back home. My first week back in Oklahoma, the defense attorneys, Charles's attorneys, asked me to come into this shady little highway motel room where they were set up. And I don't even know if that was legal, but it was scary because I wasn't even 21 years old yet, and I felt like I was walking into a Godfather movie. I was terrified. And I don't remember what they asked me, but I do remember that they weren't prepared for what I said to them. Because you see, instead of staying at a state college where I'd been when I dropped out, where I was being told that there was no God and that all this Christian stuff was just a bunch of baloney that was made up to keep people from being unhappy, or I was being told that there was only a God if I wanted to be a God, if I wanted there to be a God, because that's logical. I had just spent a year at a small Christian college like this one, where professors and coaches relentlessly preached the gospel of Jesus to me and told me about the power of Christ and told me about the power of Christ to absolutely change situations. And they challenged me to test that power. And I just recently handed the keys of my life over to Jesus. I was on fire for the Lord because of my experience in a place like this, because that new faith had been supported in a place just like this. And they asked me something, and I was really nervous, And I just looked him in the eye and said, I have to tell you all something. I said, I hold no ill will toward Charles. I follow Jesus now, and I forgive Charles because Jesus has forgiven me, and that's what I'm supposed to do. And they looked at me. They kind of looked at each other, and they said something like, oh, okay, that's nice. We're happy for you, but really? And they asked me something again, and I just kept saying the same thing over and over again. I said, I have to tell you all, I forgive Charles because Jesus has forgiven me, and that's what I'm supposed to do. That's all I said. And they looked like they had just been given like a 50-sided Rubik's Cube and told that their lives depended on them solving it in the next 60 seconds. And I was out of there in about 5 minutes, and they had nothing on either me or James that they could manipulate in court in any way. I learned the power of the gospel that spring. And I learned the power of sharing the gospel that spring. And there's a reason I asked Miss Yana to read the passage that she did. And I want to reread just a couple of verses of it. Where is the wise person? Where is the teacher of the law? Where is the philosopher of this age? We might say, where is the attorney? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For the foolishness of God is wiser than human wisdom, and the weakness of God is stronger than human strength. It was a few days before my 21st birthday, and there I was, not I, but the power of Christ in me, had stumped every single lawyer in the room. So if anybody understands this advice, I do. Have the courage to test your professors and your coach's words about the power of the gospel and the power of sharing it. I and Dr. Hogue and the faculty have all these fancy robes and colors and hoods on, and those things, as he said, mean certain things, and we're proud of you. We're proud of them. We will tell you that we're proud of them because we've worked hard for them, just like you're going to work hard for yours. And in fact, here in just a few minutes, we're going to have a little ceremony in which we celebrate the fact that in 4 short years, all of our new students are going to walk across the stage and receive a diploma for all of that hard work. So obviously we do value learning. But what makes this Warner faculty different is that they know that all of this stuff and all of their degrees mean nothing if not anchored in God's wisdom. That all of our learning is foolishness apart from Him. So you're going to encounter a different type of education here. I think you already know that. And we can talk about the elite Ivy League schools like Harvard and Yale and Princeton and all the opportunities that those schools offer. But with stories like the ones I've shared with you this morning in mind, I will put the power, the sheer power of the Warner University education up against any of them. If you have the right posture toward it. Embrace tough love and straight shooting as gifts, and have the courage to test your professors and your coach's words about the power of the gospel and the power of sharing it. God has brought every single one of you here because He has something in store for you at this place. And God has brought every single employee here to support you and encourage you and to speak truth into your life. And some of that truth's going to be awesome, and some of that truth's going to be hard, but it's all going to be good. And it's all going to be good for you, and it's all going to be wrapped in a genuine concern about your life and your future. And I hope you're encouraged by that this morning, and I hope you get off to a great start this week. Thank you.
Those of you in oral communications this semester, you'll know my feeling right now when you have to follow that really good person with your speech. Eden London, can you please join us on stage? Well, as the president shared with you, and so did Dr. Sutton, that our academic regalia does mean a lot. And early scholars were usually clergy, so that kind of explains our garb. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard the phrase, the tassel is worth the hassle.
And achievement takes great effort when striving for excellence. There can and usually will be struggles or hassles. Just remember, the tassel along with the cap and gown symbolize the efforts you're about to embark on to obtain graduation. In honor of that journey you all are on, we have a tradition here at Warner to symbolically robe an incoming freshman. Wearing the academic cap and gown marks you as a Warner graduate. It is a symbol of your fulfillment to our mission to guide you towards Christ-like character and intellectual maturity while equipping you to serve. Throughout your time at Warner, you will have the encouragement and opportunity and tough love, as Dr. Sutton said, to excel in your chosen field. Take a moment now and start thinking about the ways you want to exemplify your excellence during your commencement ceremony. Could be through a cord, a stole, or simply having your loved ones there cheering you on. So thank you, Eden, for being our demonstration. 4 years, guys, that's going to be you. Welcome to Warner. Welcome, class 2026.
Good morning, Warner. Before I close this out, we have a couple of announcements. If you have a class that meets at 10:50 on Tuesday, Thursday, it will begin at 11:05 today after this event. All other classes for today go back to their normal schedule, and all Tuesday, Thursday classes will be on the normal schedule on Thursday. Okay. One last thing, once we're done here, please remain seated until the faculty have processed through, and then you guys will be free to go. Okay. I'd like to close this out with a verse from Romans. I actually had no idea that this tied in with Dr. Sutton's message, but God does great things, right? All right, so this is Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. You guys have a great semester. All right.